All right, we have our judges. I would like to present to you our fifth pitch addressing the research and innovation gap. We have team PharmAcademix.
Good afternoon, everyone. We are team PharmAcademix, and I want to ask you, how many of you have done an experiment and got a negative result, or it didn't work out the way you expected? Well, guess what? That's good news for us scientists. If we're not failing, we are not innovating enough. But imagine if you knew that somebody else had already failed doing that exact same thing before you designed your experiment, and you put your blood, sweat, and tears into that research. Our solution is rePosit. rePosit aims to put a positive spin on negative data. rePosit is a non-profit, open marketplace where negative data can be shared and accessed through cryptocurrency. Every year, we waste an incredible amount of time and resources on experiments that just don't work. And unknowingly, we are repeating the failures of others. By the very nature of science, we know that good research means a lot of data, and not all of that data goes into your publication. And as an effect, we're having loss of negative data from the public eye and also the scientific eye. So why is this happening? Currently, we believe there is no strong incentive which exists for researchers to put out their negative data. And we believe that the current platforms available do not effectively address this. Maybe the publication model is not will not efficiently address this issue. For example, in areas of research when you've got a lot of negative data and a small amount of positives, you're still going to lose the majority of your data in your publication. So, how does the rePosit system work? John?
So the rePosit system is going to be based on the disruptive blockchain system, Ethereum. So let's say that you've done an experiment, you have, it didn't work, it didn't have any conclusive results. You can take that data and you can send it to rePosit. rePosit takes little pieces of that, little snippets, and sends that to a panel of quality control individuals who assess whether the data has any methodological flaws and make sure that that data is what you say it is. Those reviewers vote on whether it should be accepted or rejected, and only those in the majority are rewarded with recredits, accept or reject. This system ensures honest reviewing. Once your data has been accepted, you yourself earn recredits. Your data is encrypted, sharded, and distributed across a cloud infrastructure of servers. The hosts of that data are also rewarded with recredits. So now how do you access it? So once you have recredits, you can send them to the original publisher of the data. The relevant data set is then collected, unencrypted, and sent to you. To encourage a continuous incentive for contributing to the rePosit infrastructure in any of those three ways, submitting, quality control, or hosting, there will also be an open marketplace for buying and selling recredits between users, but there will be no way to directly buy credits from rePosit. This ensures that recredits will continue to have a real financial value. And a small transaction fee will be taken for the maintenance of the nonprofit itself. The technological underpinnings of this are freely available. They are proven in both their functional utility and their ability to attain real financial value. Our market entry strategy will be a vertical one. We will choose a single scientific discipline that has high risk, high failure rate, a high level of interest of both academia and industry. We will initially approach academics, universities, foundations, institutions, and we believe that a minimum viable product will consist of about 50 to 100 users in this system. There will be a very low risk for early adopters, but to add a slight incentive for early adoption, those who sign up early will receive a bonus to their rewards for their lifetime. We estimate around 50 to 100 users will constitute a minimum viable product, and that thanks to Metcalfe's law, which says that the value of a network squares with its user base. That once we reach a user base of around 500 to 1,000 users, our network will be 2 orders of magnitude more valuable than any other competitor that only has a minimum viable product, giving us an unfair advantage and preventing similars from taking over. Our funding strategy early on will consist of private foundations that have a vested interest in ensuring quality research and communication of science, as well as government funding such as the NSF Eager program, which is designed for transformative, groundbreaking technologies. Maintenance will consist of government grants. These is a list of just a couple that are currently available for maintenance of research infrastructure. But I'd like to reiterate that because of the distributed nature of the system, there's very little in the way of maintenance costs. And we anticipate that the system will become self-sufficient after a certain point of interest. Our timeline will include a brief period of engagement with potential users, assessing interest and expectations, followed by advertising within a single scientific discipline, and then we anticipate rollout within approximately a year and a half. Again, initially beginning with an academic, the interesting area within academic institutions, growing to industry, and then broadening our scientific disciplines of target.
So, all in all, here we've got the creation of a unique platform which is the first of its kind to directly incentivize the sharing of negative data. And this is the first platform that we know of that has this direct financial incentive. And this will empower researchers to design more powerful experiments and hopefully shift the culture that we don't need to hide our negative data. We can put it out there into the scientific community. We can learn from each other and shift the research culture to a more positive, open community.
We hope that we can go from repeating each other's failures to learning from each other's mistakes. Thank you. Thank you.
I have 3 questions. One is, are you going to anonymize the bad data?
So anonymization is available through blockchain currency. It is not necessary. And that is something that we will have to assess during the initial survey phases. We could certainly have a 2-part model where it can be anonymized if you wish it to be, which could help diminish the stigma. But if you would rather have your name associated with it so that you could benefit from the citations, then that's available to you as well.
And why are you not allowing others to come onto the platform to purchase the data? I mean, I could imagine companies that are doing the same work in those areas would be keen to purchase the data.
So they can purchase the data, just not from the nonprofit. They can only purchase the data from other users who have been contributing to the ecosystem.
I think the whole point of us making sure that having the review system and submission system to get the credits is really to incentivize the submissions. It's not really about, the industry interest will come subsequently once we've built up the branding, once we've reached the critical mass of getting the submissions of negative data, the critical mass of negative data within our database.
And I guess I have a question about your sustainability. You're going to get grants from Laurent and John Arnold Foundation and the Burroughs and so on, and how are you going to continuously get grants? Is that your model for sustainability? Go ahead.
So in terms of the sustainability, it's really more of like what we felt was, so the goal is really, once we win the $5,000, write the white paper, get the market research out there, and use the first year to build the branding of our system. And once we see this as a self-sustaining system, not just in terms of financial, but of the user base, the submissions. Because once you have the key pool of data, that's where the industry will start putting money into it. And the other way in which we are lowering our operating costs is really by decentralizing our hosting costs through all these users. We don't have any infrastructure costs in terms of having servers to hold the data, which is part of the big issue when it comes to scaling up an operation like this.
Can I just build on one question that I think Rosemary had? Explain to me that again, where if I were, let's say, a pharmaceutical company and I was interested in some of the research that was going on here, I can't access the database directly. I have to buy it from someone else who does?
So you can buy the credits to access the database from someone else. Or there's other ways that you can earn recredits without actually contributing data. You have servers. You've got hard drives that are empty. And so those can be, you can earn recredits and earn access by contributing that to the database.
So let me,
But,
let me rephrase the question a little bit. We thought about, it's definitely an enticing idea to have the industry come in the very beginning. But I think, the more we thought about the idea, the more market research that we did, industry is not going to bite from day one. You need a certain branding, you need a certain credibility within the system in order for those interests to come in. Yeah, and that's why we felt that we're going to spend the first few months of our system building up that credibility.
And for the recredits in the whole system to have real, tangible value, it has to be scarce. So we can't just have an unlimited amount of these recredits available for purchase by anyone who wants it. It will only have real value if it is scarce, and you can earn it through effort.
I don't agree with you, but
Okay.
I mean, because basically, the whole concept you're talking about is that these experiments get repeated over and over and over and over again, and it irks me a lot because I hate wasting taxpayer dollars. And it would be great if negative data were out there so people don't repeat the same mistakes. But I think there's tons of data we all don't know about because it's not ever reported, because it's only if something works, gets out.
Because there's no incentive to report it. So in order for there to be incentive.
Yeah, that's our key thing with the ecosystem, to provide a brand new incentive, because we don't believe that exists at the current stage. There are journals out there which are a journal of negative results, but when we've done the research, the impact that they've made at this stage in time, it's not there.
So, quick question. The whole problem with incentivizing, right, with the term incentive is it comes back to who owns the data. I mean, so with regard to your typical journal article, for instance, there's a funding source, there's a university, someone's doing the work, you're publishing, it's an understandable ecosystem. You're trying to move this around. You're incentivizing, you're providing monetization of some sort. That is coming back to the sharer, perhaps. Now, the question then is the data the sharers in the first place, and is the monetization going to that person going to raise some alarm bells? There's a funding mechanism involved, there's a university involved, there are multiple levels here where there is an ownership or right. And if you're starting to monetize, even at perhaps a trivial small number at the beginning, you're showing a very ambitious curve there. Some point of time, someone's going to step in and say, hey, who gives you the right to share this for profit?
Oh, well,
because the monetization is profit, right, at some level.
Sure. So I would argue that is already the model. When you submit data to a publisher, they own that. They have the copyright on that. And but they own that data, and they are profiting off of it. They pay subscriptions fees to that, so they are already profiting on it. And that is why we structure this as a non-profit, because we didn't want that criticism of you are profiting off others' failures.
Sorry, I'm not sure I was very clear. This is not about your system. This is about the person sharing. If I'm a scientist, I'm sharing, my ugly data with you, and you are incentivizing me to do that, someone can come and tell me I'm not the person who should be getting the money. Right? You see what I'm trying to say there? Or the reward, exactly. It's the employer, the funding agency, so that's the question here, right?
Sure. So there are non-traditional funding models for universities that have been worked out through vehicles such as experiment.com. So universities are willing to have negotiations along this line. And we anticipate that most labs, especially given the actual slow growth of the anticipated real financial value of this, most labs are going to use it for access. And that is exactly what a journal is it's access. And so in that case, you are using it to further that which you are getting paid for. To inform your protein engineering, machine learning, omics, those were kind of our initial targets.
Pasha, and that's a great question, and I think that we have come to a stage where everyone is frustrated that the negative data is not getting out to the scientific community. The key opinion leaders within the field have come up, voice out that this needs to happen. We are not saying that we're going to do this in a vacuum. This is definitely going to be done in collaboration with the key opinion leaders, the agencies, the foundations who are all pushing for this. So I don't think it's impossible.
What I think we're all responding to as positive is we all love the idea of negative data getting out, right?
Sure.
And what's more, you're creating an incentive so that, hey, I can share all my negative data. I'm a little bit anonymized. I don't look like I'm an idiot. And what's more, you're basically saying the more you share, the more you can access the database, right? That's the incentive you create.
Yes.
And so I suppose the challenge comes from, okay, but what if I'm not the person who really needs all the other stuff, right? Like there could be people who could really benefit from that. A lot of the data that's in there, that might not be me because I put all my data in there, and how do you enable people like that? Especially if you're a nonprofit corporation, you want other people to get into it, whether they've put their data in or not. So it feels like you've got the part of a really good solution. Like I see the incentive, and that's new, that's different, that's really cool. Keep going.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right.